Hello and welcome to Men in Progress, the podcast of the United Methodist Men of Trietsch here in Flower Mound, Texas. We're part of the Life Plus God podcast series from Trietsch Memorial United Methodist Church, and you're listening to episode 35. I'm Michael Tuggle, sitting in for Dave Casey, and we're glad you've chosen to join us for today's discussion. Now at the end of our third year of podcasting, we're long overdue to hear the perspectives from some of the youngest adults here at Trietsch, and today we're thrilled to welcome them to the podcast. In case you haven't noticed, it's not easy being a young adult these days. College costs are through the roof, everything is expensive, wages are flat, and the job market is challenging to say the least. Young people today face a number of uphill battles, and at the same time, statistically, more and more of them seem to be moving away from the church and religion every year. The question we're wrestling with today is why? What's the world like now for young adults, and how is the body of the church? Can we help them feel more welcome, more loved, and more supported? Joining me to discuss this are three exceptional young adults from our church here at Trietsch. Andrew Hornback, Lynley Hedding, and Dylan Garrison. Welcome to Men in Progress.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
So I really appreciate all of you guys being here. So before we get started, I kind of want to ask you guys, tell our listeners a little bit about yourselves. You know, where are you in your education? I know you guys are all in high school. Where are you? Kind of what are your plans for the near future? So, Lynley, why don't you get us started?
Okay, I'm Lynley. I'm a sophomore at Flower Mound High School, and I'm on my drill team at the school, and then I also dance at a studio outside of that.
Perfect. Andrew?
Hi, my name's Andrew. I'm a senior at Flower Mound High School, and I'm in the theater department there, and I'm very involved here at Trietsch.
Awesome. And Dylan, how about you?
I'm a junior in high school at Northwest High School, and I'm on the tennis team there.
Awesome. So I think as I talked to you guys a little bit ago, I think it's fair to say most of our listeners, it's been a while since we were all in high school. So I wonder if you guys could help paint a picture of what it's like to be in high school in 2024. You know, what are some of those big issues that you guys have to deal with every day? So Dylan, why don't you get us rolling?
I think it's hard because we have like a lot of work to do at school, like a lot of schoolwork, and we also do other things outside of school. Like I have Wednesday night youth, Sunday night, and then I work. I'm on the tennis team, so there's a lot of stuff I have to manage my schoolwork around.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Do you feel like it's funny? I have this conversation with other parents. It seems like you guys are busier than ever. Like you're busier than my kids were. They were busier than I was. It seems like you guys are constantly going.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Andrew, what about you?
At Flower Mound specifically, I think it's a very academically rigorous school, and so I think there's a lot of pressure around grades. Like 4.0 is kind of the standard at Flower Mound, and so there's a lot of pressure to be like perfect and have the perfect grades and be involved in everything, because that's kind of how everyone is. So it's not really anyone like pushing that on you, but it's just kind of the environment of the school.
Yeah. And are you in the middle of that now as a senior? I'm sure you already applied to schools probably at this point or getting close, yeah?
Yes, I'm almost finished with my applications. But yeah, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I bet. Lynley, how about you?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely like an expectation to get all A's, to get a 4.0. But then outside of that, it's just like maintaining social relationships with friends and family and friends outside of school and stuff like that. And I think that can be really challenging as well.
Do you guys talk with other kids your age? I mean, do they feel these same stresses, or do you feel like it's kind of a Flower Mound community kind of thing?
I would say it's pretty much the same, like throughout this area.
Yeah, I have some friends who go to school in other states, and then some at like other high schools in the district, like Marcus or Louisville and stuff. And I feel like it's all kind of the same pressure.
Yeah,
everyone's feeling.
Yeah. Is it coming from parents? Is it coming from each other? Is it coming from sort of the expectation you guys have for yourselves of wanting to excel and get ahead and whatever? I mean, where do you feel like that pressure is coming from?
I kind of feel like it's a little bit of all, but definitely I think each other, not like intentionally, but just as the environment. Like there's always a lot of conversation of like, oh, who's going to be valedictorian? Like who's number one in the class right now? Or, oh, did you see she got a perfect score on this? And he got 100 in this class. And I feel like a lot of the conversations I have at school and with friends from school are about grades and how are you doing in the class and what class are you taking.
Yeah. Dylan, what about you? You think is super competitive?
Yeah, there's a lot of really smart people at my school that are very up with everything. Makes it feel hard to keep up.
I want to ask sort of a companion question to that. You know, we read and we hear a lot in the media about some of the mental health struggles that seem to be prevalent, seem to be even more now than there used to be. Young people are facing bullying and depression and anxiety and just all of it. Do you guys see those circles at school? Do you see those within your friends or?
I definitely I see it with other people at school, but I personally don't really struggle with it myself. And I would say my friends at school don't really struggle with it. I mean, but it's also they don't, some of my friends might not open up fully to their mental health struggles and stuff. They just kind of share that with their family or their counselor, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I mean, I know some people who have had some pretty hard mental health struggles. I see a lot of talk about bullying and how bullying's on the rise and that, and maybe it is happening, but in my experience, I haven't seen that at Flower Mound. I haven't experienced it. I don't really know anyone who's experiencing it, and I'm sure it's happening, but
yeah,
I don't feel like that's as prevalent at Flower Mound as it seems to be in other places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think, Dylan?
I think I can definitely see it happening a lot at my school. I see it everywhere, and it's hard because a lot of those kids are just doing what they do, what they like and stuff, and they just get made fun of and bullied for it because it's different than what other people like to do.
Yeah. Do you guys talk about mental health kind of things or just anxiety or those types of things, seeing it in friends? Do you talk about it? Is it a something that people are willing to talk about, or is it still sort of it's a secret, don't tell anybody?
We definitely have conversations about it in class, a few times a month. We'll have to watch these videos about mental health struggles or addiction, just stuff like that, and then we have to take these not quizzes, but a Google form, I guess you could say, and you just fill it out whether you need to go talk to your counselor or stuff like that. But I would say people don't really open up about it to their friends, but it is talked about in classes.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. What role do you guys think the phones are playing in that whole thing with depression and anxiety for sure? It's hard, I guess, because you guys you've never not known having a cell phone, right?
Right.
So it's a little hard to compare, but knowing just that your whole life is just out there in social media and the phone. I said the phone really is social media is what I'm really meaning. How much harder is that to go through high school with all that, with everything that entails in social media?
I think it creates a lot of comparison, and some of it might be negative comparison and some of it might be positive comparison, but a ton of comparison.
Mm-hmm. I think it's just about remembering that social media is the best of the best, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, with posting the highlights of your life. But I think sometimes we can forget that it is a highlight reel and that it's not our whole life, especially when it's there's some kids at Marcus or Fremont who have a lot of followers on Instagram or TikTok or stuff. They're famous, and I don't even really know them, but it seems like I do. It's kind of important to remember that I don't know this person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. What do you think, Dylan?
I think all that stuff is true, and there's a lot of issues that people compare themselves with. But I feel with people struggling with emotion stuff, a lot of people have places on their phone where they can find cures or a place of comfort on there for themselves.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Every generation, I'm sure you guys have to deal with a lot of peer pressure. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yes.
It seems like the world is throwing a lot at you.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What seems to be those hard things that just, I don't know, hard to navigate?
It's hard to find your people, especially as just a teenager that is in their walk with Christ, and especially one that is deeply rooted in the Lord, because you are getting peer pressured constantly, and there aren't going to be a lot of people around you who have the same beliefs as you do, and if they do, maybe they don't necessarily do the same things as you would, going to parties, drinking, drugs, stuff like that. And so it's hard. It's very hard, especially to find your group of people who are going to be there for you and agree with the same stuff as you.
Yeah, I think that's great. Dylan, you agree with that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think it's kind of hard to find like a mix of both. Like I have a bunch of theater friends who I really love and I can talk about that with, but not all of them are Christian. Then I have a bunch of really good church friends who are Christian, but they're not always interested in the same things outside of that I am.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of hard to find people who fit in the same like niche as you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What worries you the most in just sort of your high school experience? What really just gives you pause?
Probably friendships. Just like, I don't know. It's been a really big struggle of mine, not to like have friends, but to have friends that are like going to stick with you through the good and the bad and the ugly, and finding friends that do have their heart centered around the Lord. I think that's my biggest struggle right now, at least. That it's like what I'm struggling with at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I definitely struggle with that too, as I've had some pretty major friend changes in the past couple of months with people who I was really close with, and now we've kind of drifted apart, and people I've gotten really close to. It almost feels like nothing is like going to stay the same, and like, which with college and all that it won't, but it's like hard to find consistency in friends. Yeah. Why
do you, Dylan, I'll ask you this. Why do you think that is, if that's been your experience, but why do you think it's so hard to find the friendships that are genuine that you can count on? I remember when my kids were in high school, they went through the same things you did. They had friends that they just, would have bet anything on that they were always going to be there. And then suddenly in like literally an evening, a blink of an eye, it was like everything changed. And all of a sudden people they thought were their best friends were like not even talking. It was a weird kind of thing, and it was very stressful and it was hurtful and all that. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's so hard to get those genuine friendships to?
I think it's because a lot of people like to do different things and they like to follow different paths that necessarily you don't agree with or don't want to follow yourself. So I feel like it makes it hard to find people who don't want to go down that path or won't eventually go down like stuff you don't want to follow. So it's hard,
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of hard to find, especially like with colleges and stuff going up, people who want to follow like the same path as you. Like, and like my varsity theater class, there's like 15 of us, and 9 of those people are auditioning for colleges and they want to pursue musical theater and all that. And I'm one of the 6 who don't. And so it kind of feels like I'm on the outside because like we're all in theater together, but then like they're more in theater than I am because that's not something I want to pursue as a career in college. So.
Yeah,
for sure.
So I wanted to ask you guys, just because, and this is not when this is going to broadcast, but just today we're coming on the heels of the election last night, and I just wanted to get your thoughts. Do you guys talk about politics with your buddies at this point? Do you pay attention? Do you care? You're about to go to school, so you probably got to vote for the first time. No, not yet. Okay, so. But anyway, what do you guys talk about politics? Do you pay attention to it? And what are your thoughts on today after the election?
I definitely do. I'm a big, I kind of guess note is the right word. Like it interests me a lot. And so I do tend to follow it and stay pretty involved and like make sure I'm informed and know what I'm talking about. And so I have some friends like I don't discuss it with, not because we like would disagree necessarily, but it's just like not of interest. But then I do have a couple of friends who I definitely discuss it with. I have some friends who come to me as like their political correspondent. Like my friend Sammy, who just went to A&M, came to me before the election. She was like, "Hey, I'm not really sure. Can you tell me some more about these candidates? I'm not really sure what I'm going to vote for." And so I answered some questions there, and we talked about it. So
yeah, terrific. Dylan, how about you?
I feel like I care about it, but I don't really know. It's like I can't like talk about it because I wouldn't be able to defend much because I'm not really. Because I don't want to say something and then not be able to defend it, and then so I care, but I can't like talk about it because I don't know what's going on really.
For sure. Lynley, how about you?
I agree with Andrew. It definitely interests me a lot, and I think this year is kind of the first year that I've really ever been interested in learning about the candidates. But I guess the last election I was 12, and I also talk about it a lot with my parents. Like, not that their opinions like fully shape my opinions, but like I like to get their ideas because obviously like they are more knowledgeable about what is going on with politics, and so I love talking to them about it. And I talk with some of my friends about politics, but not most of them, just because it's something that I don't know. I'm not voting, so I don't need to really bring it up in discussion a lot.
Right. Well, I applaud you guys for paying attention and being interested, because it is important. So let's shift gears a little bit from sort of the scary and stressful to what hopefully will be something that's maybe a little more comforting, and that's faith. Talk to me a little bit about your faith journey and just, what the kind of the role faith plays in your life.
I feel like it's a lot easier to keep up with my faith, considering my dad is the youth pastor. We go to church every Sunday. It's a lot easier to keep up. I read the Bible every night. I pray. So I feel like it's a lot easier to keep up with me. I don't know about others.
Me and some of my friends always joke that we have boring testimonies, because some of the things we've heard are like crazy and wild, and they were doing all kinds of things. And then it's just, as long as I can remember, I've been here. I went to Trietsch Kids. I've gone to Trietsch Youth. And so I don't really remember there being like a spark or a moment that everything kind of clicked. But I enjoy my faith. It brings me a lot of comfort.
Good.
Yeah, I agree. I've definitely been like, I have such a boring testimony, but that's a pretty good thing. I've grown up in the church. My parents have taken me to church every single Sunday as possible. And yeah, I don't know. I would say in middle school, I didn't really fully understand like the concept of having a like full relationship with the Lord, but I've been Christian my whole life. I've gone to church my whole life. Up until I would say like last summer of 2023, I really like took time to understand and grow my relationship with God, just because I don't know, it was very, very important to me. And I just love God. So
That's terrific. So as I mentioned in the open, statistically for a number of years, more and more young people seem to be moving away from the church and away from faith. I mean, do you guys have any kind of feel? I'm just curious, within your age group, or do you have friends that have sort of drifted, and do you have a feel for kind of why that is?
I would say yes, but also like some of them have moved towards the church. I think that the reason people kind of steer away from Christianity is because they think that they can't have fun while being Christian, but I have plenty of fun in my life, and I'm a pretty devout Christian, I would say. So I think that's the main reason why my teens are like, nah, I'm just going to stay out of the church, because they're like, well, I want to have fun, but you can still have fun even if you're Christian. So
Yeah. Andrew, how about you?
A lot of my friends who aren't Christian just have never really been, or like they're like Christmas and Easter people, like they just go twice a year just because. But I know a lot of friends who don't really know much about it, or don't really know what it's all about per se. But I think a lot of times it's just misconceptions about like that like there's rules about what you can or can't do, or that it's like it's about the rules and not about the relationship.
Dylan, what do you think?
I would say the same as them. I feel like a lot of people are more pushed away from it. It's because of like what Andrew said, the rules. A lot of people will see like that there's a lot of rules you have to follow. There's a lot of like things you have to put, a standard you have to put yourself, and they don't feel like they can put themselves to that standard, and they just don't want to give the effort to try to give themselves that standard. Mm-hmm. So they just decide to not go with it at all and just live life the way they want.
Yeah. With the friends that you guys interact with, if you're, let's say inviting them to church, let's say, or whatever, is church a tough sell to get people interested or like wanting to come?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I have a lot of friends. There's a lot of big churches in our area. Like, I'm not going to name church names, but there's a lot of churches with really big youth groups. And so I have a lot of friends, and I know people who have come to Trietsch after visiting some of those bigger youth groups, and they like find an easier connection here. Not that being big is bad, but it's just like, it's easier. I'm like, hey, it's small. It's just a couple of us. You can just come and hang out. You'll get to know everybody. It's not like meeting a million people at once. And so sometimes it's easier, and sometimes it's just, no, thank you. I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's just like, nah, regular church is boring. But I think like the main thing that I invite people to is youth group, because it's not as like formal, I guess you could say. It's more chillax, and you get to talk with more people. It's simplified down to what people that normally like wouldn't go to church would probably understand, rather than going to like a church service in the mornings.
Yeah. Do you think it's faith in Jesus that people have they're kind of pushing back, that have an issue with, or do you think it's more the religion, the rules, all the stuff you talked about earlier?
Yeah, I would say like the rules.
I definitely think the religion. I don't think. I think not very many people have an issue with like Jesus himself or like the idea of a relationship. They just have an issue with like the way that they either see that relationship or the way that relationship has been used to do things that aren't the greatest.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. So we need your advice as leaders in the church. We need your perspective and we need your advice. So if you could give us some suggestions, what do you think we could do better to be more welcoming and attract more people? What do you find special about Trietsch? How do you think we could do a better job of sharing that with other people?
I would say maybe like getting the youth more involved in like the Sunday morning part, because obviously like we have a youth group or a youth section where we sit in the pews and stuff, but just getting the youth more involved in Sunday morning church, like maybe serving communion, stuff like that, and then that gets put out on social media, and then obviously that's what a lot of teens are on, and so then that reaches out to more youth.
I just think getting to know people outside of the youth group is, I think some of the people who are like the most connected to the whole church are the people like me and Lynley who like grew up in the church, and like I know so many adults and Sundays, like I know so many just random people who sometimes they know me and I don't know them, who just have known me forever. And so it's nice to have like so many different connections in the church and people that I like know that I can go to. Like there will always be someone at Sunday morning that I can say hi to. So I think just getting to know the youth and making sure the youth know the other members of the church outside of just the youth group.
Okay, so bigger question. My generation, what do we get wrong about your generation?
We aren't as self-centered as people think we are. We are, I don't know, we're very like aware of people around us, and maybe that's just me and like the people I hang out with, but I think a lot of the times people, like older generations, can make assumptions about like, oh, like they're literally attached to their phones all the time, like they have no idea what's going on around them, but y'all are also attached to your phones too. And it's not a huge issue, I wouldn't say. Like I think for some people it is an issue, like literally being on your phone 24/7, but for most of us, we're pretty aware of our surroundings and we know what's going on. So
well, I was going to talk about the phones, but Lynley kind of touched on that. So I think, I don't know, I hear some people calling us lazy, and I know some lazy people, but I don't know if we're as lazy as it seems. I think that a lot of times it seems like that we're not lazy, we just do a lot of stuff, and that takes a lot of time and effort. And I feel like we got a little less effort left for other things than like my parents did.
Yeah. And energy.
Mm-hmm, that too.
I mean, it's, you only have so much in the tank. When the battery's low, right? Mm-hmm. And you guys are constantly running around doing stuff. And Dylan, what do you think?
I'll expand on what Andrew said. I don't experience it myself because I'm not part of it, but the football players, a lot of my friends are football players, and they wake up at like 4 a.m. every morning to go to 6 a.m. practice, and then they got school all day. Then a good amount of them go home to go to work for the rest of their day and then go to sleep and repeat it the same. So they don't have much free time, and I feel like a lot of people don't see that, like as they see the football as like just a school sport that you're doing, but they spend a lot of time and effort into it.
What's one thing that you want us to know about you?
I would say that a lot of us really care about our futures, and I think maybe sometimes like some people are like, man, whatever, like it's too far in advance, I don't have to worry about that right now, but we are worried about our futures. And Andrew, being a senior, he's stressing out applying for colleges, and so it's not that we don't care about our future at all, like we do, and we want a good future for ourselves. So
I gotta say, I need people to stop asking me where I'm going to college. Like I get like I'm coming up on it, and like I have my choices, like where I'm gonna apply selected, and I know that lots of people like already know, but it seems like everyone I meet, the first thing they want to say is, oh, where are you going to college? What do you want to be when you grow up? What are you going to do? Are you going to do theater in college? And I just like, whoa, just think, slow down on the future questions, because I think about it enough on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally get that. Dylan, what do you think?
I think a lot of people just assume that when we're like doing stuff that's not like necessarily productive, that we're just doing it to do it, and there's no like reason behind it. But a lot of the times, like you're just doing it because it's like fun, or you're just bored. And you don't want to do much else. So
Yeah. Well, we forget that you guys are due a little fun here and there. You know, you don't have to be productive 24/7, but sometimes it seems that way. Well, Lynley and Dylan and Andrew, I can't thank you guys enough for joining us on the podcast. I love the discussion, and I really, really appreciate you guys making the time to be here.
Of course.
Yes, thank you for having us.
thank you.
So there you have it, episode 35 of Men in Progress. We hope you enjoyed our discussion and that you'll join us again in December for our end of the year and last episode. In January, both Men in Progress and the Life Plus God podcast are going on a bit of a sabbatical. But if you enjoyed our podcast, there are hundreds of episodes and topics to choose from on our website. We welcome you to enjoy them anytime at tmumc.org. Thanks again to Andrew Hornback, Lynley Hedding, and Dylan Garrison for joining me on this episode, and thanks to everyone listening to Men in Progress from the United Methodist Men of Trietsch here in Flower Mound, Texas. I'm Michael Tuggle sitting in for Dave Casey, and we'll see you next time. This episode of the Men in Progress podcast is sponsored by Trietsch Memorial United Methodist Church, where our mission is to lead people into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. If you're in or near Flower Mound, Texas on any Sunday morning, we would love to welcome you to any of our services at 8:30, 9:30, and 11. Or you can watch our services anytime online on our Facebook page or at tmumc.org.